Hello, everyone. Welcome. We want to thank you for joining us tonight for this powerful and important conversation. Today, we're going to explore themes including identity, silence, family, healing, through the Chrysalis, a play written by Dr. Miguel Fiol, the author is right here, that invites us into the complex inner worlds of a family navigating love, shame, and truth. Before we begin, I want to ground us in the urgency of this moment and share a few notes for our gathering tonight. We recognize that our audience tonight includes both English and Spanish speakers. For accessibility, the discussion is going to be in English, but we invite anyone to share comments or ask questions in either language. We will field them in English or Spanish. We thank you for your grace as we hold a multicultural and multilingual event. For brief housekeeping, we want to provide a respectful and full of respect event. So I'm going to try to minimize any interruptions. I encourage you to please wait your turn. If you have something very important to say, we want to hear it, but we ask you not to interrupt someone who might already be speaking. To ground ourselves in this moment, we want you to know about the Trevor Project's 2023 National Survey on the Mental Health of LGBTQ Young People, where 41% of LGBTQ young people have seriously considered attempting suicide in the last year. And we know that that number is even higher amongst transgender, non-binary, and youth of color. And while 81% of LGBTQ youth need mental health services, 56% of them were unable to access. So hopefully today's conversation will help just broaden all of our minds and hopefully create more of an empathic space and conversation for these children and youth who really deserve it. In Minnesota, recent data shows alarming rises in fentanyl-related overdoses among youth and young adults, disproportionately impacting BIPOC and LGBTQ youth. This underscores the urgency of addressing mental health, substance use, and support systems in a culturally grounded way. These numbers aren't just statistics. As a pediatrician, they are people. They are your children, they are your neighbor, they are your coworker, and the stories just are heartbreaking. And so much of it could be prevented. And hopefully, again, tonight provides just a little bit of that opportunity for that conversation, and you have no idea that could save someone's life. We're honored tonight to have a brilliant group of panelists who bring deep wisdom, lived experience, and community leadership. I'd love to invite each one of our panelists to introduce themselves. I will begin. My name is Eileen Crespo. I'm a pediatrician. I've worked in the Twin Cities as a pediatrician at Hennepin Healthcare for almost 30 years. I am originally a New Yorican and proud to be so. And I see there's some Boricuas in the crowd. Yes, huepa. These are conversations that I have with families every day when I'm in clinic. These things come sometimes in the most kind of unexpected ways. You might be speaking about school, you might be speaking about bullying, you might be speaking about safety in the home, and sometimes these hard conversations will show themselves. So I try to do as good of a job as I can. I'm looking forward to learning more tonight as well. Next, we have Elsa Vega Perez. Elsa, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Good evening. Buenas noches. I think they listed me on the brochure as a community activist, but I really want to be here this evening to share some of the interviews that I've conducted as we were planning for this event. Parents that are scared, parents that are angry, parents that are in denial. So those were my conversations, and I'm looking forward to our dialogue. Thank you.
Next, we have Dr. Miguel Fiol, the playwright, and just really a Renaissance man. Go ahead, Dr. Fiol, tell the people.
Thank you very much. Good to be here tonight. Thank you, Eileen and Elsa. Such a pleasure to be with you and with Joe. I want to just make some recognition. I'm very grateful to Eric Ortiz, who's instrumental, along with Carmen Robles, who's around here somewhere, Conversaciones de Salud, which she has focused on the fentanyl crisis so well in her newsletter and her activities. And this space is so needed that we come together as a community to deal with this issue, because it is out there, and de eso no se habla. You don't talk about that. About 10 years ago, maybe a little longer, Elsa remembers, and we started a conversation about this issue, but I've really not seen anything since that time to look at the community's needs regarding acceptance and recognition of this very strong reality. Our moderator tonight, Xavier Vasquez, who's with the Tyrone Guzman Center, sends his greeting. He's got ill last night, and we appreciate his help in drawing up some of the program. There are copies in the front, as well as information about the tickets, because the play is going to go on May 30th at Mixed Blood Theater, and we want you to go there because this is the beginning of the story here tonight, but we want this to be a course of continued discussions and meetings and changing public policy, perhaps, about this. So I'm going to say just a few more words about the Chrysalis, a play that I wrote, and Joe has been so helpful in staging it for me. This was a project that I started 13 years ago when I wrote the first version in Spanish. And I went to Puerto Rico, and at that time I participated in meetings. Very, very few people attended. I was in the radio, and they said some not very nice things to me because I brought up this issue, which in Puerto Rico, as well as here, it's very sensitive, controversial, and has had some very tear associated with it. We eventually wrote the play in the novel in Spanish, in English, and then now we put the play together. I want to recognize my grandson. Where are you, Cameron? Lift your hand. He's been helping me a lot with the graphic arts, and gracias, amigo. I appreciate your work. So the Chrysalis is a very complex work that travels through time and space, and the conflicts you will know with many, many themes: racism, Puerto Rican identity, of course, the Spanish-American War in Puerto Rico. But primarily, the Chrysalis is about a young man who comes out of the closet under the pretext of helping his friend who's going to be shipped to New York for conversion therapy. The play then resorts to a grandfather of the Raul, the character, as his help. And this is where ghosts come in the story, which is, as many of you know, Puerto Rican culture, ghosts are with us. Los espíritus siempre are somewhere out there, and just not forget your grandparents. And so the issue of LGBTQ will be open to the public in the play, and there will be a discussion Saturday night with audience participation on, again, how do we move forward with this issue? How do we overcome de eso no se habla? Today, I would like to very briefly reflect as a doctor. I'm a neurologist at the university, and what is my interest from a scientific point of view on this issue of LGBTQ? Since the beginning of this crusade for LGBTQ, I've been interested and fascinated by the causes of why people are different. Why are there different reasons, of course, for your life, personalities, and the like? I had the interest to find out if there were genetic reasons for people to be different. And that has gotten me to some trouble because some people feel you're proving predeterminism into the equation when that has not been the intent. I've been very actively engaged in being part of the conversation, scientific conversation, about the genetic basis of difference in behavior and in sexuality and so forth. And just want to quote you one scientific article so I don't bore you to death. There was just a study released recently where they studied 400,000 people who had different sexual interests, not all to the opposite sex. And they did find some evidence that there were about 5 genes possibly who can make a difference in what your sexual orientation and your sexual preference is. That is a known fact, and I won't go into a scientific discussion, but it is out there. And I think when I look at the whole literature, studies on twins, where twins who are born from the same egg had a much higher incidence of same sexual orientation. When you do studies on large families, there is evidence, there's no question, there is evidence that the genetic component is significant. However, it is still controversial. In part of the controversy, it deals with the issue of human sexuality, which is controversial in itself and very complex. So all I can say from a medical point of view that there is some genetic influence on your sexual preferences. And to me, that is very, very important because as I travel through Puerto Rico presenting my data and my experiences and so forth, I keep hearing the same story. Dr. Fiol, we didn't choose to be gay. We are that way. And I see that in my practice. People come in and say, you know, I'm in the body of a man. I want to be a woman. And after a while, you get to realize there is a common strong thread. And people who come to you and says, it's not easy to be gay. It's very difficult. You take yourself a lot of things. Families reject you, and acceptance is not uniform, although it's improved quite a lot, as you see. So enough of science. The Chrysalis raises a possibility, and it's important that all discussions and dialogue of the causes, that door is maintained, and that future research can lead to more direct connection that can help for greater acceptance and understanding, and that puts science at the service of man. I hope today's discussion on all aspects, especially the understanding of generation of this issue and the acceptance, will guide us to greater understanding and acceptance of variation in what is expected and what is actually real. The psychological impact and incidence of depression, as Eileen has said, in our population is very worrisome. And we will discuss, and I hope this space serves as an improvement point for mental health issues of our Latino community. Thank you very much.
Okay, and last, but you can clap if you want. Okay, and last but not least, Joe Moses.
Oh, hi, I'm Joe Moses, and my day job is to teach collaborative writing at the University of Minnesota. And let me tell you about the most meaningful and valued collaboration I've ever had, which is with Dr. Miguel Fiol. That 13-year journey he talked about, he's welcomed me into that, to share that experience with him. And so I'm really proud to be here today to help to introduce the play, the themes of the play. It's really a marriage of science and art. We think so differently, and out of that has come this play. And he's also entrusted me to direct it. So I really value that trust as well. So I'm very happy to be here tonight.
All right, so with that, we're going to start the agenda for tonight. We're going to have a few questions for the panelists. Then we're going to move into the performance, live performance today of 2 of the scenes from the Chrysalis. After each scene, we're going to stop and have a little bit of reflection and conversation, and then we'll open up the floor to our audience members who have questions, comments.
It's a lot.
We're going to try to respect your time and be finished on time. All right, so the first question, and this is open to each of you, is the Chrysalis delves into identity, silence, and family relationships. What inspires you about this work, and why do you think it's relevant today, particularly for Latine and LGBTQ plus communities? I don't know if anyone feels so inclined to begin.
I think the most important part is that you're able to create a part of yourself and be true to the identity. So often, it's easier to act out, and be in a theatrical mode and do it that way. And then it's also facing the reality that you might be rejected, that you have to hide. So that's what I see.
My story goes to a high school friend of mine that has never been able to return to Puerto Rico. He was gay from high school. His father would have nothing to do with it. His mother was more accepting, although distant. And his father, to his grave, never welcomed him in the family. And he's lived a terrible life of depression, unstable relationships, and his father died recently. He never accepted his son. That's one of many stories. In Puerto Rico, and it happens in the Chrysalis, the course for anybody who came out of the class and was gay is just go north, just stay away from our society. And I saw that many times, and that was the initial inspiration to write the play and play tribute to him.
It's so easy to dismiss the problem. It's so easy not to face it, One of the parents that I shared conversation with earlier said, I was glad when she decided to move away. And I said, well, why? And she said, because I couldn't face her sexuality with my friends and my family. So it was easier for her to adjust to her daughter's lifestyle as long as she didn't come back to the neighborhood. So those are some of the pressures that I think children and young adults feel. You don't have to be a kid, whatever the kid has already experienced growing up, being laughed at, saying, oh, you're gay, and he's 6, 7 years old. And so people putting their images and their opinions on a child. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge that we need to kind of help remedy in some way.
I will say, and I'll go to you in just a second, what always breaks my heart when I see my patients and their families struggling is that your child can't be who they are. And they have to kind of put on an act for a parent, who just, because they know that if they tell them who they really are, the parent can't accept that. And that always, I'm going to get emotional. It really is just, it's so upsetting because in the end, they're still your child. There's nothing different and there's nothing wrong. If your child had blue eyes or your child had brown eyes, you wouldn't think there was anything wrong with that. And unfortunately, the topic of sexuality just brings up so much cultural bias that we, inflict harm on the people who we love the most. So again, I think, all these themes we all unfortunately have seen and lived through so much of them. And I did love your comment because I do think things are better. Things are changing. They're not perfect by a long shot. But I do think there's more awareness and acceptance. But go ahead, Joe.
And while it's absolutely essential that we support our loved ones, one of the things I appreciate about the play is that it doesn't put the parents in a light of blame and shame. It's the conversations are as difficult for the parents as they are for the the loved ones. And what's at stake is a matter of history, self-identity. What's my role as a father? What's my role as a parent? And how do I love my child? on what's the right way to love my child. I know how I grew up and how I learned to love someone else. And then when someone presents me with a different kind of an identity that I'm not necessarily used to, I'm challenged by that as well.
I want to share that, although times have changed how we perceive our young people in the LGBTQ community, but times have changed to the point that our politics are now inflicting their positions with the far right on policies that affect our children. I'm on the board of Planned Parenthood Minnesota, and restrictions on health care to our young transgender youth is not fair. And so although we've made gains in understanding their needs, we're actually going backwards because we're not letting us continue with that process. So we got to watch out.
Okay. Yes, that is true. All of that is true. Let's talk, just to try to keep it focused a little bit on the scene that's coming up. Many families struggle to have open conversations about topics like sexuality, mental health, and the family legacy. What are some of the risks and possibilities that come with breaking silence?
I can tell you a story of a man from Puerto Rico came to me the other day, said, my mother told me that if she knew I was going to be gay, she would not have had me.
Oops.
True. This is a true story. She would never have had me. And that man was being so impacted by that you could see him, a man tearing. So you're right, Eileen. I think in some of our families, just opening up carries a tremendous burden of isolation, acceptance, exodus, go somewhere else. We don't want a maricón in the family. Yeah. And so the burden is pretty high. And like you said, it's cultural. And some other cultures, it's not that severe. But in Puerto Rico, it is, believe me.
I know a family that the father was very tough and involved in the drug scene, and he was a big macho man, and he had a son. And the son early demonstrated that he was gay. He was beautiful. He was just a joyful young boy, just a wonderful boy. He wouldn't accept that he was different or that he behaved differently. And finally, the young man grows up. The father comes out of prison after doing 8 years or something like that. He comes out, and the young man wants to be gay. And he finally confronts his father. His father had been drinking, and he proceeds to beat him up. And that was how he handled what he was afraid of to this young boy. I mean, he took an ass whooping, actually, and it was terrible because that's his dad. And he loves his dad, So those are the challenges that we need to break through because those young people are so involved in that.
I'll just make one comment about what you just said, Elsa, and I know you're telling a very sad story, but I just picked up when you said, and the son wants to be gay. Yeah. And what we know is they just are gay. It's okay. You know, they're not trying. I think there's some misperception in the community that kids choose to be gay because it's easier and it's more fun. No, that is not a thing. It is very difficult, and we make the lives of children who are different in any way very difficult. Kids at school make them difficult. Parents make their lives difficult. So we know that for kids who are gay, straight, lesbian, whatever, we need to try to support them in all the ways that we as families can. The last question before we go to the scene, how do cultural expectations or generational trauma shape the way families express love or discomfort?
Anger. I mean, I don't recall ever having a conversation in my family or in anybody's family when you sit down and you want to discuss homosexuality or transgender or any of that. We just don't do it. And when you bring up the subject matter, it's anger. And you don't know what you're told. ¿Cómo es? Eso no se habla. De eso no se habla. You don't talk about that. And so we never confront it, right? We just it just goes up in the air or something.
I agree. I don't have anything.
Well, and the consequence of the silence, not being able to talk about it is much harsher. The consequences are so much harsher for LGBTQ people than it is. I might want to talk about, when I was a kid. I have 4 sisters. And my mother one day sent me off to the store to pick up some sanitary napkins. And I brought them back. I think I was like under 9 years old or something. I said, "What are these for?" and if she knew the language, she would have said, "De eso no se habla." We're not going to talk about it. And I think, and so what does that mean to me? It means it's not to be talked about. It's not worthy of discussion. In this case, it didn't offend my identity, but it means it's bad or it's wrong, right? And so to hear somebody say to me that who I am is bad or wrong, right? How devastating could that be?
Okay, I think we're just getting to the first scene. I'm going to try to set up what you're going to see since you are seeing snippets of the play and not the full play, although you can see the full play if you download that QR code and go there for tickets. But the first scene we're going to see is Raul is trying to come out to his father, Eduardo. For days, he has been pleading for his father's support to help Jose, a close family friend who's gay and in need. But Eduardo refuses to get involved. Raul decides the only way to make his father understand is by revealing his own truth. What follows is a powerful confrontation about masculinity, silence, and the roles we play within our families. When Raul brings up baseball and money, he's speaking directly to the identities of his father and brother, a baseball player and an accountant, challenging what it really means to be a man.
I have to tell you something.
No, you don't. I'm tired of this.
You have to know something.
No más, Jose.
No, Papa.
What then?
Me.
I don't want to talk about that.
About what?
De eso no se habla.
Does Mama know?
I hope to God she doesn't.
How did you know?
I know what a man should be.
But a man can be
You
more...
don't tell me what a man can be.
Can it be more than playing baseball or counting money? Tengo que decirte algo.
No, tú no. Estoy cansado de esto.
Tienes que saber algo.
No más de José.
No, papá.
¿Entonces qué?
De mí.
No quiero hablar de eso.
¿De qué?
De eso no se habla.
Mamá lo sabe.
Espero que Dios que no sepa.
¿Cómo tú lo supiste?
Yo sé lo que un hombre debe ser.
Pero un hombre puede ser más que...
Tú no me digas que un hombre puede ser.
No puede ser más que jugar el béisbol o contar dinero.
In this scene, Raul is trying to come out in a moment of emotional vulnerability. What do you think he's hoping to gain by revealing the truth to his father?
Well, I have to say that I think he wants what every son wants, which is affirmation from his father. I say, we all live for those words, I'm proud of you. We all live for the affirmation that says, hey, this is my son. I want you to meet my son. And I think those hopes died in that scene.
I think the eso no se habla is a crucial way of knowing what you want. The eso no se habla means in this culture, in this family, we just don't talk about that. I think that big message in just that short phrase.
But we got to turn that around. And I think that most families that are familiar with living with young children or already have the experience with their own children, you know, how to join each other and understand each other. Because you have families that brothers don't talk to each other behind it, or the brother moved away so that nobody in the family experiences it. So, you know, the idea of new parenting and sharing what your experience is, because that has to happen. You can't just keep it, se tiene que hablar, you have to talk about it. And the only way we can talk about it is by sharing the pain that we are experiencing. And it shouldn't even be painful. Let them live the life they want to live. Let children experience who they want to experience. Doctor, you know, they have it inside them, so.
They do. What I find is, for so many parents, is the death of that perfect child. There's just an idea when your baby is born of what that child is going to be and what their life is going to be. And unfortunately, for many parents, this is very different. And for some parents, it's literally impossible for them to accept that the path is not going to be what they thought it was going to be. I will tell you, in my role as a pediatrician, I try very much to just redirect people, like, it won't be what you thought it was going to be, but it's going to be okay. And I think too many families just, that the reality of it being different is something they're very afraid of. And again, because of the tremendous stigma in Latino communities regarding a homosexual lifestyle, it just becomes, something that your child feels like they can never tell you who they really are, which again is just a heartbreak. All right, well, Miguel se brincó. That was the next question, was to talk about de eso no se habla, but we can maybe expand a little bit about what that phrase represents in our families and culture, and how silence can serve as both protection and harm.
I don't know. I don't have anything else to say.
I want to share.
There you do.
De eso no se habla, you don't talk about that stuff. I was talking to a very close friend of mine, and I was sharing with her that we were going to have this conversation into the play. It's about to come out. And she said, girl, I know all about that stuff because it's been in my family forever. And I said, really? I mean, that's how familiar you are. We don't talk about it. De eso no se habla. You just don't talk about it. They exist, and people talk about them behind their backs. So that's really what needs to stop, is that talking behind people's back and not respecting them for who they are.
So I could say that in the Chrysalis, we do talk about it. So we try to break that stigma.
Can you take a question from the audience?
Sure.
Okay.
We love
Oh, go ahead. Say it loud.
Okay. I'm not Latino. No, I'm good. I can project. But my family's Southern Italian, so they have a lot in common with Latin culture. And I don't have any children, but my understanding, even from a young person, I'm heterosexual, so I'm definitely talking from a position of privilege, is that the parents are afraid to talk about this or to show any approval of this because they're really afraid for the safety of their child. And so my heart agrees with you when you say, let your child be who they are, but how do you advise, or how do you comfort parents that are afraid that their gay son could be killed just because he's gay and he's surrounded by a culture that doesn't accept that?
He may be killed. There's children that are being killed, they're killing themselves. The only thing that I could share is that your child needs to be happy. And I think that that's what the doctor was saying. You have to allow for that child to be happy. And so, you know, Italian culture, I grew up in New York City, St. Mary's, St. Alphonsus, it was all the same parental stuff. You weren't supposed to talk about it. You laugh about it. You weren't taught how to be sensitive about it, you know? So it's the same challenge. We got to change our behavior.
Yeah, I mean, what you're talking about is real. I mean, we know that children, people who are in the LGBTQ community are at higher risk of personal violence against them. We understand that, but at the same time, you know, getting in your car, you can have an accident and die. I mean, things can happen to anyone, and not allowing them to be who they really are, I think, is very harmful. So I totally understand what you're saying, and I think every parent worries when your child goes out the door, are they going to come back okay? So.
Yep, absolutely. Any other questions,
Yeah,
guys?
yeah, two more.
Or self-expression, anything you want to share? Maybe you have family members or something, anything you want?
Well, I think we're going to do that in the
Oh,
next part,
are
if
we
that's
gonna do
okay.
that? I didn't- I
Because I want to
just
be sure we
get
we
that
get
other
to the
scene.
next scene. But before the next scene, the last question we have here, which has come up here, is Eduardo talks about what it means to be a man, the father there, and what expectations do we place on masculinity, and how do they affect our ability to connect across generations? I think the character of machismo is probably its own person in this play and in the lives of many Latino families. But did you want to make a comment about the role of masculinity?
You know, the stereotypes, too, also portray us to be at a disadvantage. Because I'm thinking, have you ever seen a mafioso be gay? I've never seen a gay mafioso, you know what I'm saying? So they portray stereotypes of what it is to be an Italian male or a Latino man, and, you know, they don't project it in a fair way,
I think there's one issue, and I didn't want to bring it up, but I think we have to, and it has to do with the church, our church, because, you know, and a few years ago, I was younger and I was bolder, and I gathered a bunch of community, and I brought priests over, 2 priests, because the idea was more a delusion, probably, that I wanted to us sit at the table and look at the problem with the Latino community and try to come to terms with the fact that the church has to change. And it bombed. It was a meeting that bombed totally, and I said, I'm not going to do this for a while now. So I'm back at it. But this is an issue for the Latino community in the Twin Cities. A lot of, and their friends, and I love them, and they come, and that is the only place that they can find comfort, home, people like you. You know, they go to churches, and the priests have so much power over the community, and I'm not going to go there. But the church, I think, is part of the problem. I think they need to relax a little bit on this issue, and I think this Pope has taken some steps which are helpful, because our Latino people rely a lot on the church. This is, when you come over from far away, this is a place you can call to some degree home, because these are your people, so the priest takes on a very important role in your life. So I think part of the issue of easing things on the Latino communities, working with the church, and try to have the church be more inclusive and accepting. And I get into trouble about this, but I really don't care.
I think it's going to be a challenge to
It
have
is
an
a terrible
LGBTQ club at the Catholic school or the Catholic church. You know, I mean, I don't know if they'd even accept it.
They don't.
They don't.
It's very, very, I just had a terrible experience that a lesbian couple tried to go to a retreat in a local church, I won't say where, and they refused to accept the couple to go into retreat. And this is happening, and this is part of the issue. And in the Chrysalis, the mother is sensitive to that issue to some degree, isn't she, Joe, Eva?
Well, I think we'll see that in the next scene, yes.
Yeah, exactly. See,
Just bring them on.
but I
Perfectly
think
said.
that's one of the issues associated with acceptance that needs to change in order to, we had a kid a few years ago committed suicide, and the parents, you remember that? The parents didn't accept him, the school bashed, the kids got bashed, and this is part of the problem.
Okay, we don't have nearly enough time to talk about the many issues with the Catholic Church.
But,
And this is from someone who went to 12 years of Catholic school, so.
Yeah, same here, same here. But I think if we're starting to understand more of the issues that are affecting our families, I think this conversation is leading us to that, so.
Yes, I think it's going to come back around in the next scene,
Yep.
right? Okay.
Exactly. Do you want ready for, or do we get more questions?
I'm gonna provide the background for the next scene, and then we'll have the scene, and then we're almost ready to just do all audience participation. But, so the context for the next scene, in this scene, Raul's mother, Eva, offers him the Chrysalis, a symbolic gift tied to family, legacy, memory, and protection. She reveals that she never wanted him to leave for Spain, but admits she stayed silent out of fear and uncertainty. When Eva mentions the ghost, she's referring to the spirit of Raul's grandfather, a presence that both haunts and shapes their decisions. The scene explores silence as both survival and sorrow, especially for women. It asks, who gets to carry fear in a family? Who is allowed to speak? And what does it cost to keep quiet?
You want the chrysalis out of the house too?
Raulito, no. To keep it close to you. Please take it. Wear it. I never wanted you to go off to España.
But have you objected?
I didn't know what to say.
Ay, mamá, de eso no se habla. Is that what protects you?
See?
It doesn't protect me.
You don't know, hijo.
What if it kills instead?
Now you're being foolish.
It's easier to send silent prayers to God than it is to speak up for me, isn't it?
When have you ever cared about the reasons for a woman's silence? It's easier to ignore what a mother has to worry about, isn't it? So you have the luxury of judging others for keeping quiet? Does the ghost teach you to be so arrogant? Not even a priest has the power to take my worries away.
Mama, you just showed me more of yourself than you have in 21 years.
Do you really think your father and I are cowards?
I think the whole island is afraid to stand up for itself. ¿Quieres que la Crisálida también se vaya de la casa?
Raulito, no. Para mantenerla cerca de ti. Por favor, tómala. Úsala. Nunca quise que te fueras a España.
¿Pero te has opuesto?
No supe qué decir.
Ay, mamá, de eso no se habla. ¿Es lo que te protege?
¿Sí?
No me protege a mí.
No lo sabes, hijo.
¿Y si en lugar de eso mata?
Ahora estás siendo tonto.
Es más fácil enviar oraciones silenciosas a Dios que hablar por mí. ¿Así no es?
¿Cuándo te has preocupado por las razones de silencio de una mujer? Es más fácil ignorar lo que una madre tiene que preocuparse. ¿No es así? Así que te das el lujo de juzgar a los demás por guardar silencio. ¿El fantasma de tu abuelo te enseña a ser tan arrogante? Ni siquiera un sacerdote tiene el poder de quitarme mis preocupaciones.
Mamá, me acabas de mostrar más de ti que me has enseñado en 21 años.
La verdad, ¿tú crees que tus papás somos cobardes.
Creo que toda la isla tiene miedo de defenderse.
All right, we have a few last questions before we open this up. Eva offers Raul the chrysalis. What might it symbolize for her, for him, and for their family's unspoken truth?
Well, you'll have to see the play. I won't say it, but the chrysalis means many things to this family. And this was from the grandfather, got it from his lover, and it carries a lot of weight, and they hide it, but finally the chrysalis came out because the chrysalis symbolizes the truth and the family. So that's all I can say right now. But you gotta go see the play.
Yeah, the mystery.
May 30, remember, come opening night.
That is May 30, 31, and June 1st.
Yes, director speaks.
I mean, I think the question of the chrysalis also speaks to the layers of the play and the complexity of the play. It doesn't take a simple point of view. It doesn't oversimplify the issues. It really talks about real struggles and the layers of struggle and the layers of cause and effect over time and in the present in the way that the events of the play affect the characters' lives.
The next question that we have prepared actually is very similar to what you brought up already. But it says, Eva and Raul clash over protection and silence. What does this scene teach us about the different ways parents and children carry fear and responsibility?
I saw more respect than fear. I didn't see the fear there. You know, I saw that the child is still respectful of his parent, even though he's challenging her about what it is that he's trying to tell her. Yeah. But I didn't see the anger. I saw more respect.
It's shy, yeah, that's true. I think my experience is the mothers, when confronting, are so much more understanding than the male Latino. I think that is reflected in this scene of the play, that the mother is more open to accepting. And I think that's a wonderful thing for the Latino mothers. I think they're better than the guys, to tell you the truth. And I have Marta here, my wife. So what do you think, Joe?
I'm trying to think of the relationships and the silence that we've been talking about. What are the costs of silence? The character of Eva really embodies that struggle of being told to be silent over the years as a wife and a mother, and yet there's a true self in her that demands to come out, and it's the events of the play that through which she finds that courage, and it's one of the sources of hope in the play.
Okay. Before we open up to audience questions, we would like each panelist to briefly respond to what's one thing we as a community can do to continue this work after tonight.
Organize. Organize parents, organize young people, parent groups. If you're a teacher, organize some conversation in the school settings. If you're a doctor, somewhere in the hospital, we can convene. Organizing, getting the information out, getting the resources, the books, inclusive practices in work. So I say organize.
I agree, and I think this, too bad Xavier couldn't be here with us tonight, Vasquez, because I understand his Tyron Guzman Center is making an effort to do what Elsa is just saying. Organize the Latinos, get them to speak, get the word out. I agree.
Well, as an educator, I have to say learn. I think it's our responsibility to learn in any way that is, in the ways that are most comfortable. If it's through attending plays to see an issue through someone's perspective that's different from yours. That's a great way to learn. Find friends who are willing to invite you into their lives and share with them, as Miguel has done for me.
I'm going to add that as a pediatrician, as a person, as a mother, as a Latina, I would encourage you to be an ally. Be that person that maybe that child feels like they can tell you something about themselves. Be the titi that your niece, nephew, neighbor, child needs. These are things, every child needs to have a safe space to land.
Absolutely.
All right. How can storytelling and theater help us process difficult truths and spark transformative conversations in our families and communities?
Why don't we just open it up? That seems like too much of an intellectual question, and I really want to hear from our audience. What can you do? Or are there any questions, pressing questions? Your own experience? Let's talk.
Yes.
I just want to say that I hear you all talking about the Catholic Church not accepting whatever. Are there any churches that welcome this situation? Because everybody says the Catholic Church because that's the number one church that says, oh, no way, but
Good point.
I don't know any churches that do. So how come you don't say the Lutherans don't, or the Baptists, or the Jehovah's, or who?
Well, the Jehovah's don't even play with it. They're so, forget about it. They really say no publicly. I think the evangelist and the Jewish faith have women that represent, their faith. But I don't know of any LGBTQ program. Yes. The Methodist Church.
Methodist. Yes. I was going to say, I know that some Unitarian parishes as well are just very open and accepting and inclusive. So there are, places. There are some Catholic parishes who really, under the radar, are very inclusive. I go to church at the Basilica. That is a very diverse community. And so, but the church teaching continues to be that it's not okay.
Yeah.
I was able
Y'all
to find.
can go to mass, but
Yeah, right. And
I was able to find 4 Catholic churches that have content on their websites that name LGBTQ activities and explicitly welcome
yeah.
the community. There's a list of others that are said to be welcoming, but if you go to the websites, you might not see any evidence of it. We know about the Reconciling Congregations movement in the Methodist Church. We have to look sometimes.
You guys as a group, though, are you supposed to be the informational people that give people? I mean, you say there's this church, that church, or different groups. Would it do good to put a pamphlet or something to have give it out to people?
resources?
Are there resources, right? The Centro Cultural, Tyrone Terrell, Centro Cultural Chicano.
Tyrone Guzman
Has,
Center, downtown. Yeah, they have.
Said his name wrong. I'm
They're
sorry.
pretty open.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a very good point, and maybe that's something
Yes.
that we should
Yeah.
try to collate and provide to people, because I do think many people may not feel accepted at their own church, and they might still want a spiritual life. Many people, even if they don't necessarily align with the main Catholic Church teachings, could find somewhere else maybe where they could feel accepted. So that's a great pointer. Yes?
Okay. Should I sit? I feel like I should
Yeah.
sit. Okay.
Just say.
You can stand. sit.
I just wanted to say hello. Thank you so much for doing all this. I think it's such an important conversation. It's not really a question. It's more just I just wanted to share. Okay.
Yeah,
I just
here.
wanted to share my own experience. So I came out of the closet at 14 as a lesbian, and then many years later at 21, realized I was transgender. And my family was fine. I'm half Cuban, half Guatemalan. They were like fine with me being a lesbian, but then when I said I was transgender, it was like really hard for a lot of people in my family. I think it's more complicated. They didn't understand as much. And my abuelo, who had been like very important to me in my life, you know, and like a support, especially because my dad was in prison for a while and he was very much like a father figure in many ways. Yeah. He kind of, he kind of like emotionally abandoned me like after saying I was transgender. It was very hard on me, and I wrote him this like very long letter sort of talking about like, I don't understand. It's very similar to this play, you know, because this play too, I just want to mention as an actor, it talks about so much more than just LGBT. It talks about race, the history of Puerto Rico is so complicated, and its relationship to the US, you know, and I told my abuelo, I was like, I don't understand how you know, as a Cuban American who like fled Fidel, you know, fought against Vietnam, like how do you not get this? Like, why are you rejecting me right now? You know, it's very hurtful. And in this letter I wrote him, I told him, I was like, please listen to the song El Gran Varón by Willie Colon as you read this, you know, because I just think that song is such a gorgeous anthem towards like, you know, being LGBT and just someone who doesn't fit within the culture. And I guess I just wanted to sort of say that, like, I think all Latin American countries, like, we're so, you know, messed up because of the US, you know, and we have to be focused on survival and not getting deported and all of these other issues we have. And so to sort of, you know, it's like when you have people who are immigrants and it's like, oh my God, on top of everything, my kid is gay now. It's like, that's, you know, it's a lot to deal with, you know?
It shouldn't be that way.
It should not be that way. No, not at all. But I just wanted to sort of share that, you know, like, yeah, there's a lot of empathy to go around. Yeah, I'm just so excited for this play, and I hope everyone can come out. I'm an actor, and I read a lot of plays, and this it's really special. So,
all
yeah.
right, thank you.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Oh, goodness. Okay. Do we have any other people who would like to share?
Please.
Sorry about that. Good evening. I thank Dr. Crespo for telling me about this wonderful event. She is or has been the pediatrician for my 3 children. I am very proud of all my kids, and I'm very blessed to have her as a doctor, because not only has she been in the taking care of their health, but also mental health. One of my children, she's a lesbian, and she's living with a partner. And to this day, my family doesn't talk about it. She told me when she was 14, now she's gonna turn 23. And when she said, Mom, I just need to talk to you, because if you meet my daughter, she's very bubbly, she's always joking. And she said, I like girls. And I'm like, okay. And she goes, what, you're not gonna make a scene? You're not gonna be old Puerto Rican on me? And it's like, I don't know what you're talking about. No, why? Mom, are you worried? And I said, no. Why would I be worried? Are you worried? He says, no, of course not. This is who I am. And I said, that's fine, that's great. From that moment on, it has been a painful journey for her, because my ex-husband, he's from Mexico. His whole family does not accept her being a lesbian, and they blame the mother, me, and it's all my fault. Like, if it was an illness, a genetic, I don't know, syndrome, disease, yeah, and they pretty much abandon her emotionally and don't want to talk about it. And she wanted to introduce her girlfriend to them, and they refused to meet her. Yeah, so I think when you were asking what can we do as a community, I just think is as much information as we can provide to others. I openly talk about my beautiful daughter because there's nothing wrong with her. And other parents, when I tell them, yeah, because she's gay, I mean lesbian, and they look at me like, oh, like that sad emoji. Oh, and they get sad for me. And I'm like, well, she's alive. She is doing great. She has a good job. So it's really sad, the stigma. It's really sad, the misinformation. Some families even treat it as like a disease. Like, oh my goodness, why are you gay? Is it somebody else in our family gay? And, you know, I guess a misunderstanding, and because there's not really something scientifically that can say, this is why. I think that's why people fear. I hear that you're doing a lot of studies, and I appreciate that, because it also brings understanding for the child or for the person that is gay. So I just want to say thank you for doing this. I wish my daughter's traveling, so she was going to come tonight, but I'm here representing her. And another thing, before I talk a lot, so I promise, Dr. Crespo knows me. I promise to keep it short. The last thing I wanted to say, the stigma or the misconceptions, if you see my child, she is this beautiful 4'11", 4'12" young woman. She dresses beautifully, always makeup, her hair is beautiful. She's not, how do you say that word in English? Butch? Like she doesn't dress with men clothes. It's not what you stigma, oh, she's probably gay because she looks like a man. No, she's not like that. And they tell me, are you sure? Are you sure she likes women? Because she seems not to like women. Oh, it's probably a stage. Oh, she'll get over it. I don't know why people feel the need of telling me this. Yes. I adore my child. I'm proud of her. Yes. And I just want to communicate to everybody, please, there's nothing wrong with my kid, okay? Just love her, admire her how she is. Yeah. Thank you.
We need more parents like you, Ms. Tanya. She is, what a blessed child. She's amazing. For any of you who will have the pleasure of meeting her, she's fantastic.
I see.
And I was going to say, you know, as a parent, I have a queer child as well. And what I can say is, you know what? Number one, it's no surprise. As a parent, you always know that something is just a little bit different. Not that it's wrong, you know. So when your child picks the whatever time, it may not be convenient, you might not be ready, but know that it's gonna you'll be like, oh, okay, she's just saying it to me now, but you really have always known it.
How do you get through the head of that crazy person that says, no, you were born a man, you were born a woman, there's something wrong with you?
Well, we know that those people are ill-informed.
Yes.
And it's very hard to deal with ignorant people. And so again, we just can only wish blessings upon those people, that they will learn, that they will hopefully know someone who is transgender, someone who is gay, bisexual. They're just like the people in this room. They're your neighbors, they're your kids, they're your cousins. There's nothing, they're not aliens. They're regular people, and I really, it's saying a lot, but it shouldn't matter to us what goes on behind closed doors with whomever they would like that to be. Sure. So unfortunately, we put so much pressure, nosiness. Well, I don't know, but why is that? But they shouldn't be. But I heard fulana and whatever. It's none of our business. We love to bochinchar. That's like a hallmark of, I think, Latino people. But really and truly, when it comes to matters, especially of LGBTQ issues, some of those ideas and beliefs can be dangerous. So, that's really the purpose of tonight, is to try to, again, just expand minds and let people know there's nothing wrong with it. So.
Hi, Alan. For the record, I wear women's clothes like almost every day. Clothes are clothes, they're just meant to cover your body and keep you warm. I thank you to everybody in this room for coming and supporting both the marvelous works of these people up here and us as well. Stories are life, right? And I heard a lot of stories today that might come off a little scary. And I guess that's kind of the point, right, of this space right now. It's a scary conversation to be had, and I thank you all for putting your input. There was a lot of, like I said, scary stories, but what I found that made them all really connect with each other is that it's usually about a person, and that's how I tackled this scene. It's usually about a person that is dealing with some type of feeling, and a situation happens upon them, and then this particular person has some internalized prejudice, whether they know it or not, that just makes it a pressure cooker for that situation. And people make mistakes, like some of the people on the wrong end of those stories. But what we don't really talk about after hearing these stories is what do we do with the grace part? What does the victim do? Especially when the victim and the aggressor are so related. And there's no closer bond than a son and or a daughter to a offspring to a parent. So I guess in trying to lighten things up, I made it a little dark. But I just want these type of stories to make you think about how, even if you find yourself in that horrible position, how all of us can get out of it and find grace within it. Which brings me to all the church talk, right? That's got to be a lot of internalized everything, right? Not just prejudice, but you learn beautiful things going to church. I grew up in a Catholic country. I know the beauty of what it is to be Catholic. But obviously, we've all seen other things that aren't beautiful. So I guess moving forward after this conversation today, I just want everybody to just be open to the idea of growing from destruction. Anyways, that's my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Anybody else interested in chatting, sharing?
I think that things, I know I'm not anybody to talk about it, but I think things have come a long ways, really, because we're talking about it. You're having these things. I mean, there was a time nobody talked about nothing, and now everybody's talking about everything. There was, I can't remember who it was. I just saw it in Good Morning America, that actor that's 90 years old that just died, and he was like the leading man in all the shows and everything, and he never came out until he was 90 years old, and then he told somebody, I couldn't because you would lose your job, he was an actor, and so nobody talked about it. This man carried this in him till he was 90 years old. Can't think of which actor. He was one of the leading men in all the soap operas and the movies and stuff. And he said, you just couldn't do it. You just never were allowed to say that. And so I think, I think we've come somewhere because everybody's, we say we don't want people to talk behind our whatever, but there's a lot of people that don't care and don't say anything, and they're just accepting. And I think we've come a long ways compared to not talking about it at all.
I agree with you.
So we're talking now, and then in 10 years, they'll be talking, you know, they're always gonna talk.
We'll hope, as you know, Elsa made a little mention earlier, the political winds tend to shift and make this conversation easier to have and sometimes really hard to have. So yes, if in 10 years, I hope things are better. They are better now than when I was a kid, when no one could come out, even though I definitely grew up with friends, neighbors, cousins who were gay, lesbian, but nobody could ever talk about that. And they couldn't come out until frequently they grew up, moved away, and then they could live the life that they always wanted to. But, you know, with the risk of losing their family, losing their relationship with God, all of the rest of it that comes with it. I mean, you have to be a really brave person to come out, and that's so sad that they have to be willing to risk so many things to be who they are. So hopefully this conversation can help that one person. The goal of tonight is we want to help that one person who is lost, who needs somebody to talk to, who is hiding who they really are. And so hopefully the play will also kind of stimulate these kinds of conversations and maybe, you know, cause a spark of something.
Yeah, I think I piggyback on what you said. I think Minneapolis is a very open city, but there are places in the world you don't have a meeting like this and you don't talk about it. So I think you're right, ma'am. We're blessed to have come a long way, and that has been on the blood of many. Who giving up their lives and have walked away from their families because they don't want to deny themselves. So there's been a lot of tears to get here, and we're proud of that as well for the people who have fought. But there's still some ways to go. There are places where, you know, they get burned at the stake. So we're lucky in Minneapolis. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, because
Yes.
you brought, you know, light to this conversation. You know, we're talking about the depressing and the killing and all of that, but you brought such a great spirit with your beautiful daughter, you know, and so I'm very thankful. And I think that that's really the message that we want to start sharing. That's the message, you know. Thank you.
Yes,
Go.
go.
Piece in the
There's
play
lots
as
of
well.
resources online, like support groups on Zoom for family members, parents of LGBT kids. My mom goes to a support group. So just do a little research if you need some support. It's all there.
Thank you for that. So hopefully we can incorporate that. Maybe we could, I don't know if you're going to have a website or have some resources and pamphlets we can hand out
Yeah, at
when you
the
host
play.
a play. Yes.
Great.
Okay.
I think we're
Well, all right, I'm going to do the wrap-up. We can still continue the conversation, but just then this part will be over. I want to thank you all for being here with us this evening. I really appreciate it. It was great, a better conversation than even I expected. So I want to thank everyone who bravely shared their personal stories. We appreciate that, and we will carry those forward. I want to give thanks to our panelists for your honesty, your wisdom, and the vulnerability you bring into this space tonight. To our amazing actors, really incredible. To the organizing team, Carmen Robles, Eric Ortiz, everyone behind the scenes, thank you for creating the conditions for this dialogue to happen. Let's see. I invite you to carry the spirit of this evening forward. Keep talking, keep listening, keep creating space for honesty, for healing, and for transformation. Thank you, and good night.
Thank you, thanks.
And a great talk and thank you to Eileen for stepping in this morning with no advanced warning and moderating so well.